Hello everyone, my name is Anshul. I'm a corporate trainee at Madrid Software Training Solutions. So today we'll be discussing about the interview questions that are often being asked in the data analysis interview. So basically interview part is the last part where you have to excel so that you get a job or an internship. After you have done the course or the degree, you have particular degree for data analysis, at the end you will go for interview, and we all know that interviews tend to be not so easy, and they make you nervous if you're not aware what type of questions the interviewer would ask you. But here we are, for the betterment of your interview, prepared some basic questions and some important questions so that you can be prepared enough for your data analysis interview. So without wasting time, moving forward with the first question. The first question could be, what are the key requirements for becoming a data analyst? Before moving further to answer this question, what I really want to tell you is that no matter what question comes forward as the first question sets the basis of your interview. If the first question is going to be really good and if you answer really well in it, then you have set the base for the rest of the interview. And if you fumble in the very first question, then it might end up in a different way. Not sure, not a surety, but obviously that will tend to make you more nervous. So what are the key requirements for becoming a data analyst? um, on the YouTube channel of Madrid Software, there is another video which is data science versus data analysis, in which I've already mentioned about what are the requirements, what are the qualifications or the key requirements that you need to become a data analyst. So for that, we need SQL, databases knowledges, SQLite, programming languages such as Python and or R programming. Then the ability of a person to analyze and organize and basically analyze the big data efficiently. At the end, you need to analyze data so that you can provide insights which are valuable enough for the company or for the clients. You must have a substantial technical knowledge in fields like database design, data mining, and segmentation techniques. When we say that you have substantial technique, that doesn't mean you have to be really good and expert in the database design and data mining or segmentation techniques. If you're familiar with these techniques, then you're good to go. The company will accept you because you're familiar. If you're not familiar, then you are at the back end. Then have a sound knowledge about statistical packages in Python or in R and massive data sets such as SAS, Excel, SPSS to name a few. You should also know how to work on Excel. You should also know how to do data analysis on Excel. If you know SAS or SPSS, then well and good. If you don't know, then I guess if you know Python and R programming, then Excel, then you are good to go. Then what are the important responsibilities of a data scientist, a data analyst, sorry. So basically you need to understand in which field you're going and what will be the responsibilities in future. So basically the responsibility of a data analysis is not just to analyze data, but also to collect data and interpret data from not only one sources, but from multiple sources. And after collecting that data, you need to clean that data from the multiple sources. We'll be discussing how to tackle, that's also an interview question, how to tackle data from the multiple sources, and also analyze complex data sets and identify the hidden patterns in them. Every data set is not going to be simple as it seems to be, but they will be complex data sets as well. And therefore, we need to analyze our mind. We need to think mathematically and statistically so that we can identify the hidden patterns in the data set. And also, you need to know, you need to have a sound knowledge about databases as well. As I mentioned, SQL, that is relational database management system, and MySQL as well. And there are NoSQL and there's MongoDB for unstructured data. So you need to have a knowledge about the databases, that's for sure. And also you need to know how you can make the database secure. So this is a very common question, and I guess one of the most important and the most important technique that every data analysis should know, that what are the best ways to clean the data. Because in the real world, the data is not clean. The data has inconsistencies, the data has duplicacies, and sometimes missing data as well. So how do you tackle these problems? So segregating data according to the respective attributes. So basically, if you have a data from multiple sources, you segregate data, isolate the data according to the respective attributes. Then if you have large chunks of data, if you have large data, then you break the large chunks of data into small data sets and then clean them and then combine them. So why do we actually need to break the data into the smaller chunks or the larger chunks of from the larger data? Because sometimes it's really hard to work on large data set, but it is comparatively easy to work on the small part of the data set. So if you have a bigger data set, you can divide the data set into the smaller chunks, and then if you find out how to clean the data, if you are able to clean the first small chunk of the data, then you can apply the same methods on the rest of the chunks, that is the rest of the other small chunks that you have collected from the large data. That is why it is beneficial to break down the data into smaller chunks and then analyze the statistics of each data column. In data sets or in table or in data frames, each column is said to be a feature or an attribute, and each feature or attribute has some properties and has a probability distribution. You need to analyze those statistical properties of each and every data. And then creating a utility function, or basically in simple language, you need to create a script or write a code for dealing with the common cleaning task. Suppose you can write a code to fill in the missing values, and then you can apply that same particular code on every data set. You don't need to write it again and again. So you should know how to write code in an efficient way so that you can reuse it again and again. You should know how to write reproducible code in Python or in R or maybe in Excel too. So, and at the last, keeping track of all data cleansing operations to facilitate easy addition or removal from the data sets if required. Also, you need to keep track of what methods you are applying on the data set. You cannot just blindly apply the methods and then forget about them. You need to keep track of those elements or those functions or those methods which you will be applying on the data sets. Then, what is the difference between data profiling and data mining? I have seen people who get confused in data profiling and data mining. So, data profiling basically focuses on analyzing individual attributes, and when I say attributes, I mean columns. So, data profiling focuses on analyzing individual columns of the data and thereby providing information related to each and every column regarding the data type of the column, regarding the frequency, the type of values contained in that particular column, is it a discrete column, is it a continuous column, or if it follows a particular probability distribution, a normal distribution, or a uniform distribution. So that is what data profiling is, understanding each and every column of the data set and their values. But on the contrary, data mining is a totally different, but not so totally different. It's like data mining aims to identify the unusual records, analyze the clusters and sequences discovery, to name a few. What we mean by data mining is that if you have a data and you need to extract some information from that particular data, then extracting the information by various methods, you can use regular expressions or XML techniques. So those techniques are considered in the data mining. So next question is, what should a data analysis do with missing or suspected data? This is a very common problem which you will be facing in almost every data set you will be getting, or almost every data you will be getting, is that how to tackle the missing data. Because the data has been created by humans only, and as humans are tend to create mistakes, there are going to be missing data as well. So how do we analyze that missing data and how do we fill that missing data? We need to use data analysis strategies like deletion method, single imputation methods, and model based to detect missing data. So when we talk about single imputation methods, for example, if you have a data and that contains an age column, and in that particular age column there are 177 rows which does not have any input for the age, so you can impute those missing values with a single value. which can be a mean of the rest of the age which is available, which rest of the data points for the age which are available, and or the median of the age. So we are imputing a single value, and that is what we call single imputation methods. And then also we can impute the model based methods to detect missing data. Model based methods works in the context of machine learning. Then, after you have dealt with the missing data, we need to prepare a validation report containing all information about the suspected or missing data. So, you cannot be just done with the missing data after filling it. You need to prepare a validation report. How do you actually counter the problem of the missing data, and what all missing values were there in the data set? And then the suspicious data to assess their validity. So basically, we need to figure out the data if we need to access their validity. The data should be valid enough. Every data set is not valid enough to work on. And then replace all the invalid data, if there is any invalid data, with the proper validation code. Don't worry about the fancy languages over here. It says with the proper validation code. It simply means that you have to replace all the invalid data with the proper value. As I mentioned in the example of age, you can replace the non values, that is the null values, with mean values or the median values. Then we have very basic question and very important, because in data analysis we perform statistical methods, and as a data analysis you need to know the common statistical methods that are highly beneficial for data analysis. That is Bayesian method. Bayesian method is basically the optimization method. Then we have Markov process, then simplex algorithm. These two are the ones basically to identify the validation of the data, to validate the data. Then we have imputation, to impute the missing data, spatial and cluster processes, how to create clusters and how to analyze clusters. Clusters simply means the grouping of the data. Then how to perform rank statistics, how to calculate percentile, and how to detect outliers. So detecting outliers is not that hard in every data, because you can create a histogram also, or you can create a scatter plot, or you can create a box plot. Box plots are easily useful for outliers detection. In R programming or in Python, there is also one plot which is called QQ plot, which stands for quantile quantile plot, and which is also useful for outliers detection. But in box plot and in QQ plot, there are technicalities that you need to understand. There are terms that you need to understand before detecting the outliers. And at the last, the mathematical optimization method to ultimate to basically optimize your analysis so that your results are beneficial enough. So, what is time series analysis? You must have heard this name, but you never studied it thoroughly. So, if I have to explain you what is a time series data, sometimes you get a data which contains time as well as the date. The moment you set that column of time and date as the index of that particular data, that data is known as the time series data. Please listen to me very carefully. It's not every data is a time series data. If a data set or a data has an index, that is the observation based on the time series or the time and date, then it is said to be a time series data. Series analysis, that is time series analysis, can be usually performed in two domains, that is the time domain and the frequency domain. And it is the method where the output basically, it is a method of predicting, forecasting of a process is done by analyzing the data collected in the past using techniques like exponential smoothing, log linear regression method, etc. In time series analysis, you should be aware of what is a rolling mean. What is a rolling mean is basically an average, but it is a dynamic, that is a moving mean is what we call. You need to aware what is a rolling mean, how to dislocate or basically discard the trends so that you can see the seasonality. You should also know how to discard the seasonalities to see the trends. So in time, when you have a time series data, there are trends and seasonalities in the data set. And time series analysis is itself a whole big domain that you should be know about. Then how should you tackle multi-source problems? So that is a very common question, because if you're working as a data analysis, you're not going to get the data from a very single source. You're going to get the data from the multiple source. And if you are getting the data from multiple source, there is highly likely that you will be getting the redundant data. And at the end, you need to understand how to basically reduce the redundancy from the data. You can identify the similar columns, and then you can combine the columns so that you can combine the data so that you can reduce the redundancy. You should also know how to examine the schema integration through schema restructuring. That is a part of a database. So, and mention the steps of a data analysis project. As a data analysis, you should have a flow chart, basically a sequence of tasks that you need to perform on a project. So, moving forward, the foremost requirement of a data analysis project is in-depth understanding of the business requirements. It is not going to be like you have the data and then you start doing the analysis. You need to understand the data. You need to understand the problem statement. Statement refers the outcome that you want from that particular data, or the problem that you want to solve from by analyzing that particular data. The second step is to identify the most relevant data sources that best fit the business requirements and obtain the data from reliable and verified sources. As I mentioned, that as a data analysis, you get data from the multiple sources. So you can also identify the most relevant data according to your requirement, according to your business requirement, and then obtain the data not from all sources but from the reliable and verified sources, so that your data analysis report will be beneficial to the company. And the third step involves exploring the data sets, cleaning the data, and organizing the same to gain a better understanding of the data at hand. So after you have analyzed the data, after you have understand the business requirements, after you have validated the data sources, the third step is to involve exploring the data sets by creating a summary statistics, understanding the statistical measures of each and every column, and understanding what all null values or missing values are there in the data, cleaning the data, and organizing the same to gain a better understanding of the data. In the fourth step, the data analysis must validate your data. You need to validate your data. How good is the data? Because if your data is not good, suppose in the machine learning there is a quote, if you feed a garbage data to a machine learning, that is a bad data, then you will get a bad output. So you need to validate your data as well. And then the second last step involves implementing and tracking the data sets. And the final step is basically to create a list of most probable outcomes and basically create a report of your data analysis, and in such a way that a non-technical person is able to understand your report as well. You cannot be sure that your client will be a technical person. Your data analysis report should be made in such a way that is understandable by any non-technical person as well as technical person. If we talk about how you can make your data analysis report interactive for the non-technical persons, is by the exploratory data analysis, that is by creating visualizations. Then what are the problems that a data analysis can encounter while performing data analysis? Presence of duplicate entries and spelling mistakes. As I mentioned, the data sets are created, or basically the data sets are provided by the humans as well. So there are going to be mistakes, there are going to be spelling mistakes, there are going to be duplicate entries. These errors can hamper data quality. If you have duplicate values, if you have spelling mistakes, then your data is not a good data. You need to validate the quality of your data. Poor quality data acquired from unreliable sources. In such a case, a data analysis will have to spend a significant amount of time cleaning the data. As I mentioned, that you need to validate the sources. The reason being that cleaning data is really time consuming, and you don't want to spend most of your time in cleaning the data. So you need to understand the reliable sources as well. Once the collected data is combined after being cleansed and organized, the variation in data representation may cause a delay in the analysis process. So what do you mean by that? Basically, we are saying that if you have combined the data and if you have cleaned the data, then there are problems which can rise as well. So what are the problems? As I say, the variations in the data representation may cause delay in the analysis process. When you get data from the multiple sources, there are variations that tend to occur in the data, redundancy, duplicacy. Maybe there is one column present in one data set and no such column in the other data set. So the variations are tend to occur. So what are the characteristics of a good data model? It should be capable of scaling in proportion to the changes in data. So when you scale the data, so basically a good data is that which does not vary much as respect to the mean. What I in technical terms, the variance should be not variance should not be high, and all columns should have a same mean. Sorry, same variance. But in reality, that is not the case. So you need to scale your data in proportion to the changes in the data. It should be consumable to allow clients, customers to prepare tangible and profitable results. As I mentioned that your data model or basically your data report should be consumable by the technical as well as the non-technical persons for the tangible and profitable results. Also, it should have a predictable performance so that the outcomes can be estimated accurately or at least with near accuracy. Your data model should be good enough so that you have the highest accuracy or near the required accuracy. Also, your data model should be adaptive and responsive to the changes so that it can accommodate the growing business needs from time to time. Oh, it simply means that the data changes from time to time. You are generating data. The humans and the machines both are generating tons and tons of data every second. So a data model should be adaptive enough so that if the data model gets a new data, your analysis doesn't go in vain. So these are some 11 questions that we have discussed today about the data analysis interview. These are not the only questions that will be coming in your interview, but these are some main questions that you will encounter. You always need to be prepared for the interview, and obviously you cannot be 100% prepared for something which is uncertain. So thank you for your time. You can contact us at info@Madrid Software Training Solutions. And for any questions and comments, please do call us. We provide courses on business analytics, masters in data science, artificial intelligence as well. Thank you so much.